All right, let's talk about a book that most of us probably read back in school, but one whose dark, true meaning feels more relevant today than ever. William Golding's Lord of the Flies.
You see, this was not just another castaway adventure story. When it came out in 1954, it was a direct and pretty bleak warning. It was a fable born in the shadow of World War II and the terrifying new reality of the bomb. And it asks this one really haunting question. What happens when the rules of civilization just disappear?
Now, what's so fascinating is that Golding's novel didn't just pop out of nowhere. He actually wrote it as a direct, almost brutal answer to a really popular Victorian fantasy novel that told a completely different story.
So, what exactly was this myth? What was this fantasy that William Golding was so determined to completely shatter?
Okay, so the book Golding was targeting was called The Coral Island. He'd read it as a kid, and it was this classic adventure where these prim and proper British boys get shipwrecked, and, well, because they're British, they're just naturally superior. They easily conquer nature, they fight off pirates, all the threats are external. Golding thought this was a dangerous lie, so he set out to write the real story, and he even used the same character names, Ralph and Jack, just to make sure nobody missed his point.
And this is just brilliant. He has his own character, Ralph, start off with this exact same kind of blind, jingoistic pride. This line isn't just a throwaway, it's the starting block. It's that ideal of noble imperial virtue that Golding is about to systematically and very brutally tear to pieces.
Which really brings us to the big question, right? Why was Golding's vision of humanity so incredibly bleak?
Yeah, this pessimism, it didn't come from some abstract philosophy. It was forged in the fire of two very real-world laboratories that gave him a front-row seat to the truth about human nature.
Let's break this down because this is so key to understanding the whole novel. First, Golding was a schoolteacher. For years, he watched boys, saw their little power struggles, their casual cruelty, their social hierarchies. But it was the second lab, the war, that really provided the final, devastating proof for his theory.
And his war experience wasn't some desk job. I mean, he was in the thick of it. He was part of the hunt for the infamous German battleship Bismarck. On D-Day, he commanded a boat firing rockets onto the beaches of Normandy. He saw, up close, what ordinary, decent people were capable of doing to each other. And what's more, he saw the look of ecstasy on their faces while they did it.
You can imagine, seeing all that, it completely changed him. It led him to a devastating conclusion. He realized the evil he was fighting wasn't some uniquely German thing. It was human. That capacity for savagery, he came to believe, could happen anywhere, in any country, given the right, or maybe the wrong, circumstances.
So the crucial takeaway for him was this. Savagery isn't a bug in the system, it's a feature. It's not something that happens to other people. It is an innate, natural part of our programming, as natural as a bee making honey.
Okay, so with that chilling thought in mind, let's head to the island itself and see how this all plays out like some terrifying political experiment. You have to remember the timing. This book comes out in 1954. The world is gripped by the Cold War, living under the constant, terrifying threat of nuclear war. So, the island, it's not just an island. It's a miniature version of the world. It's a lab to see what happens when society finally breaks down. And this is where you see the central political conflict take shape. On one side, you've got Ralph. He's trying to build a democracy, with rules and meetings and consent, all symbolized by the conch shell. And on the other side, you've got Jack, who builds a totalitarian tribe based on fear, ritual, and his own absolute power. It's a pretty direct parallel for the struggle between the democratic West and authoritarian states.
But here's the thing, this whole political battle, it's really just a symptom. Golding is digging at something way deeper. Something much more personal and, honestly, more horrifying.
Right from the start, the boys are absolutely terrified of a monster. A beast they think is lurking out there in the jungle. They organize hunts for it, they leave it offerings. They're convinced the enemy is something external. But they are looking in completely the wrong place.
And Golding, well, he gives us a huge clue right there in the title of the book. Lord of the Flies is a literal translation of Beelzebub, a biblical name for a powerful demon, sometimes even the devil himself. So this isn't just about a monster, this is about the very nature of evil. And then comes the moment, the terrifying reveal, the rotting pig's head on a stick, the Lord of the Flies. It speaks to Simon, the mystic of the group, and it tells him the awful truth. The beast isn't some animal you can hunt down with a spear. I'm part of you, it says. The beast is inside them. It's the darkness in all their hearts.
And that horrifying realization brings us full circle, right to the novel's absolutely crushing and ironic ending.
So the island is literally on fire. Ralph is running for his life, being hunted by the other boys, about to be killed, and then, just like that, a naval officer appears on the beach. He sees these little kids with painted faces and sharpened sticks, but he just can't comprehend the hell that's actually unfolded.
And then comes the killer line. He sees this utter chaos and he completely misreads it. He compares it to that heroic romantic fantasy, The Coral Island. I mean, this is Golding's ultimate indictment. The adult world is so wrapped up in its own myths that it can't even recognize brutal reality when it's staring it in the face.
And here's the final gut punch of an irony. This officer, this symbol of adult civilization and rescue, he's a soldier. He's actively participating in a much larger, much more destructive war himself. The boys are being rescued from their tiny war, only to be returned to the massive, atomic war of the grown-ups.
So the question Golding basically throws at our feet is this: are our laws, our morals, our entire society, is it all just a thin, fragile story we tell ourselves to keep the beast inside of us from taking over? And that, right there, is why this book still haunts us. It suggests the monster isn't out there somewhere in the dark. It's in here. It's been with us all along.